You're listening to the Film Slice Podcast, where movie talks happen.
Hey team, Angus Dragon here, and welcome to the Film Slice Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Kane Diggly Wiggly Kane Dogs.
Jordan is
and
fine.
Bro Diddly Broad Man Jennifer Meister.
Christine's fine.
Ah, so close.
Is that name given to you?
As much as I gave it to myself, and therefore it was given by myself to me, yes.
We're reviewing Lady Bird, everyone. Lady Bird, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a bird that happens
It's a
to be
bird
female.
with a female. It's a female
It's a
bird.
female with a bird head.
Kane Dogs, hit us up with our IMDb summary, just so we can get our heads in the right zone of
Pump up
film.
the audience.
All right. In 2002, an artistically inclined 17-year-old girl comes of age in Sacramento, California.
Starring Saoirse Ronan. I'm going to say it because you'll
Because...
mess it up.
Yep. Good call.
Starring Saoirse Ronan as said 17-year-old, Laurie Metcalf as the mother,
Also
Tracy
known as
Letts as the
Sheldon's
father.
mum from The Big Bang Theory.
Really? There you go.
Ah, that's where I hate her from.
In both that TV show and this, she's kind of got a child called Shelley.
Tracy Letts as the father, Beanie Fieldstein as Julie, who's Lady Bird's best friend. Also, Jonah Hill's younger sister.
Ah, you're very similar comedy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
What do we know of the director?
Of the director, this is the directorial debut.
Yep.
She directed one thing before this, but I've never heard of it.
I think she's
She's co-directed.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yep, she's co-directed before. She's
her
done a
first
lot of writing and everything, and she's very much in the indie scene, although apparently she doesn't like the indie title.
Yeah, looking through everything she's written, acted in, and directed, I did not recognize
Yep,
anything.
not me either.
Cane Dogs.
Yeah.
You know what it's time for?
When you see the movie, what did you think? Do you like the movie? None of the shit.
This is a section where we talk about where we see the movie and also what we think. Starting off with Broadman.
Saw it about 4 to 5 days ago.
Right, oh.
Right, oh,
Has anybody else noticed that Brody's never quite sure when he saw the movie?
I'm always 100% sure. But
It's
then I dumb
within
it down
a range.
just for you, Jordan. Thought it was interesting. I feel like while I was watching this film, I was watching a very good student film that was a feature length. And that's not meant to say it in a bad way.
Okay.
No,
That's
I
like-
agree with
that's-
you, but in a bad way.
I feel like in a good way.
Cane Dogs, over to you. When did you see the movie? What did you think?
So-
Can I guess? You didn't like it.
No, okay, so firstly, I want to be perfectly honest.
Please do. I would hate for you to lie to me.
I've lied to you so much in my life, Angus.
Your name isn't Jordan, is it?
No.
Oh my god.
Better not be Jennifer.
It's a name given to me by my parents, because that's how names work.
Yeah.
It's
It's Man Bird.
Man pigeon.
Man Pigeon.
I'm Manbird from now on.
Yeah.
I usually see this film with my GF in her hometown, or the town she's currently at, and it wasn't playing. And the other cinema that it was playing at was a drive away and slightly more expensive. And I really was very tempted to not see the movie at all and see how far into this podcast I could bullshit I could bullshit you guys into thinking I'd seen it, because I reckon I could. However, I saw it last night
Very nice.
at like the 9 p.m. session with one of my friends and like 2 other people in the cinema. What did I think? I'm very conflicted. I think objectively this movie is really well made and probably a good movie. However, I fucking hated it. The whole time I hated it. I walked in knowing I'd hate it and I walked out agreeing with it.
I reckon it's definitely for a certain demographic.
A very niche, specific demographic. From what
No, not a
Quite a
specific
wide
niche.
demographic, just
not
very
yours.
much not yours.
It's just-
Yeah.
it's just- well,
Yeah.
I'd like to elaborate. The friend I saw it with, she's the same age as us, so 24.
Mm-hmm.
She cried the whole way through the movie. I'm not going to mention her name in case she's embarrassed. But she blabbered the whole way through the film. It was a very emotional experience for her. She still claims that it was one of the most boring movies I've made her sit through. So that's where I'm conflicted in that, whom I would have assumed the demographic would largely be aimed at, and most of them have said, it was boring.
No, I would say the demographic is definitely for the coming of age movie is those people coming of age, as well as parents with kids coming of age.
Okay.
I think, especially our age at the moment, we're kind of we've become the people that we're going to be for the rest of our lives. We're not.
It's sad, but probably true.
It's sad, but well, yeah, that's it. I had the privilege of going to a friend's wedding yesterday, which you'll know, and by happy coincidence, I was sat on a table with some of my past teachers from high school.
Were you on the same table as them?
I was on the same table as
did they ask about me?
As my history teacher and my literature teacher. No. And so, of course, the main topic, the main subject that we would talk about on the table was, what
wedding.
happened back in high school.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
And it kind of transported me back to that time in my life. So by a happy coincidence, I had a bit of a refresh of myself during that coming of age period. And then immediately after, I went to see the film, as in this morning. Went to see the...
Did you see the movie this morning?
I saw it this morning.
Oh, so frustrating when you do
I beat him again. Anyway, that is the long way around who I think this demographic is for. And also, do you like how I just kind of segued back into asking myself, when did I see it and what did I think?
I do like that.
Yeah.
You notice how me and Brody didn't ask you.
Yeah.
It's because we don't care. Brody, demographic. Who do you think it's aimed at?
Who do I think it's aimed at?
By the way, I did like the film. Thank you.
No, I agree with Angus on the demographic. Angus, what did you think about the film?
I thought it was great. Sometimes it was a bit jarring, I think, and that comes through as the director's being at the first film that she's directed. I think sometimes the pacing was a bit off. Sometimes the pacing was spot on. I thought the acting was very well done.
I thought great performances all around, generally.
Yeah, definitely. Very strong female characters, which I liked, and that's one thing that the director really wanted to push home was kind of bringing more female-dominated films into the spotlight. Out and out, it's a coming-of-age movie. There's nothing new in it. Don't go in expecting a big twist or for there to really be anything new. It's definitely a character piece. It's good to study into it, but it's not a new concept by any means. So would you recommend it, and who would you recommend it to?
Most of my female friends saw this, and I've had more bad feedback than good feedback, and not negative criticism, just that they found it boring. So yeah, I'm actually really struggling to put a finger on a demographic.
I think that it is hard to figure out a very specific demographic. I think that this is the kind of film where I'm not going to be able to judge whether someone's going to like this film or not.
Yeah.
I do disagree with you when you said that you thought it was going to be a lot of women who would kind of connect with this film. I felt like I connected with everything that the main character did.
Yeah,
definitely. I think that's key, the word relatable. I think when it boils down to it, when you're looking for a demographic, you need to have something that's relatable to the synopsis of this film. So whether it be you're just graduating high school or something like that, or you have just graduated high school, you're kind of getting into uni now, that's a perfect demographic. But also if you have children going through that stage at the moment, because I feel this movie is even though it's very strongly about Lady Bird.
It's as much about the mother.
It's as much about the mother as well, and
the father plays a very strong character. I found the father to be one of the more likable characters in this.
Yeah, the father is very, very passive.
Yeah.
In what he does, very in the background, which lets the women kind of shine out more, but still a very strong character arc.
Did you get emotional in this movie, Angus?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I cried once.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll guess where in the spoiler talk section.
Do we want to head into that now?
Which is now. Spoiler talk.
Oh, what a cool sound effect, Angus.
So this is the spoiler talk section. If you haven't seen the movie and you are in that demographic that we discussed, or tried to discuss. Or
you're not.
Definitely go see the movie first. But for those who have seen the movie, stick around.
Or if
See
you
if
haven't
you-
and you watched the trailer and like me, you sort of had a fair idea what the movie was going to be about, stick around anyway.
Yeah, stick around. Have
Or
a
if you don't
listen.
care.
Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let us know on Twitter at film_/_pod. See how I just slipped that one right
Oh, it was
under you?
seamless.
Yep,
That
seamless.
was a slippery little plug.
Oh.
Yes, it was.
I've got
Do you want to start with me? I'm happy to...
Yeah,
Angus, hit us with some
hit us up
positives.
with some positives.
All right, positives. As I was saying before, the character development of not only Ladybird but the other characters around was really fleshed out. The acting in it was quite exceptional. I thought Saoirse Ronan was fantastic, as well as the mother. I think the mother, she's done quite a lot of indie films before as well.
She's also played a mother in a lot of films.
Played a mother in a lot of films, yeah.
Potentially real life.
Standout was definitely Tracy Letts, the father, as we were saying before in the spoiler-free. Such a fatherly thing to do is to not talk about your financial difficulties and to not talk... And this is a big thing in the film, is this family is really struggling financially to stay afloat. They're doing... The mother's working double shifts every day to get Ladybird to this, private school. And the dad is being, his job title's fluid at best. Like, it's not... he's not stable at all, but it's such a fatherly thing to be like, don't worry,
Everything's fine, we'll
sort it out. And
to try and play that rock for the other characters in the family.
Exactly.
My favourite scene with him, and he doesn't do anything in it to impact this scene, but it's just my favourite little nod, which is at the beginning of the film, he's running her to school and she asks him to drop her off like a little bit and he doesn't, stereotypically in a film where that happens, you immediately see the dad be like, oh, you embarrassed of me, and you have that quirky, which is a trope that I'm sick of seeing in films where the student is like, oh, don't drop me off in front of the school, I'm embarrassed, and then there's like a quirky joke about, you're embarrassed to see me,
They actually show that confrontation, whereas...
The dad doesn't say anything, which just I imagine someone actually wouldn't. If you're a father and that happened, I imagine you wouldn't bring it up right.
He's a very non-confrontational, just happy to let it slide as long as it doesn't rock the boat.
And then later the mother brings up that he has depression and that, he probably doesn't appreciate you doing that. And I just love that because you feel so sorry for him. And it's not until later in the film that she's like, he has depression, he's really struggling with all of this, and you're seeming like you're embarrassed of him, and then you're like, and he's not... And he's just trying not to upset anyone.
He does tell the mother at that scene.
During that scene,
she doesn't need to know that.
Don't worry
don't
about
tell
it,
her. Don't tell her that. Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah,
and
such a great performance.
And he goes for a job role. He goes for a job interview, and he very clearly sort of isn't going to get the job. And he walks out, and then his son is there, dressed up in a suit, going for an interview, and they realize they're going for the same one. And the dad immediately swallows it, does his tie, go get him, son. I believe in you.
A hand on the face, and
and it's just, it really sort of, I think, demonstrates a modern day father figure as a hero.
Yeah, definitely.
that's what being a hero as a father is.
Putting your family before yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And that was fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely agree. The other one of the other big things. So the director also wrote this film, and I think the dialogue was fantastic as well.
Completely agree.
The quippiness between the mother and the daughter, just the stabs that they have at each other, but
the passive aggressiveness is displayed perfectly.
Yeah, it's really well done. One of the best scenes between them is when they're in the op shop looking for a dress, and they're just pulling out these insults left, right, and center, and just hating on each other. And then they stop to admire a dress, and they're both like, "Oh my god, that's so pretty."
I like it when she's trying on a dress for prom.
I really like that scene.
And the mother is
rooms.
like critiquing it.
Yeah.
And everybody can kind of remember that time where you do something that you're proud of, and your parents are proud of it too, but because they're trying to offer constructive criticism, you feel unsupported.
Yeah.
And so she tries on a dress,
Ladybird.
and she's like, "I think it looks great," and she's like, "Is it too pink?" And that, from the mother's perspective, probably isn't her trying to be a put down, but from a teenager's perspective, it's like, you don't support anything I like, sort of thing, and they immediately get off on the wrong foot again, and it's all
Ladybird
misunderstood.
Literally says, I love this dress. She walks in.
like, I love
she's tried
this
on a
dress,
couple of
yeah.
dresses. She walks in and says like, I love this dress. And her mother just looks at the dress and just says, is it too pink? And
Yeah.
Lady Bird not speaking a word, just quietly walks back into the changing room. And that
it's
moment
so
probably hit
perfect.
me the most out of any other moment in this entire film.
And you see the camera just lingers on the mother. The good thing about the movie as well, though, is that you see it from the mother's side as well.
Yeah.
There's no real antagonist in this film.
No.
Like, even the boyfriends,
It
I mean,
is
the second
real
boyfriend
life.
is a bit douchey, but he's not
He was my least favorite character.
a bad person. He's just not, you know...
I
he's
felt-
just a bit of a dick.
He's
I
just a
felt
bit
like
of a
that
dick.
character was the least fleshed out for me. Something I did like about the film between Kyle and Ladybird is Ladybird is upset and he's like, don't be upset. There's like a war going on in Africa. And she's like, just because there's war doesn't mean you can't be sad about it. Everything. Other
Yeah.
things can be sad. And I remember growing up, and maybe some people felt this, maybe some people didn't. I feel like this is a very personal movie to try and talk about because you have to...
It is
You
that.
gotta
And I
sort
think
of relate
that's
to it in
what
order to understand it
Yeah.
and to talk about it. And I remember feeling guilty sometimes when I was a lot, like 14, 15. You'd feel sad about something and it might just be like something really simple, like maybe...
Someone didn't share their crayon.
Mum and dad are watching the news. and you
14-year-old
wanna
Jordan.
Yeah. 14? What?
Oh, my
Mate,
crayon.
That was yesterday.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, like, you know, maybe you want to watch The Simpsons and your parents want to watch the news or something, and sometimes you've felt guilty about being upset because you know that there are terrible, like, there are people that have it worse, and that had always sort of happened at my dinner table where, like, you know, maybe you don't eat your food or
Yeah.
you're full and someone says there are starving kids in Africa.
It's a
and
Catholic guilt or...
and you have
whatever it
that
is.
guilt, and then you eventually grow up to be like, look, just because some things are sad doesn't mean you can't be sad about your own personal experiences in your life. Like, other things can be sad that you don't have to consistently measure them against degrees of sadness.
Yeah,
and I've been
exactly.
waiting for so long to have someone put that feeling or experience into a conversation or into words. And it's so simple, and he's like, why are you sad? Like, there's a war in Africa. She's like, no, everything's about war. Other things can be sad. And I loved it so much. Just that little thing, I'm like, yeah, that's probably what kids that age kind of need to hear.
What I liked about this film is the performances with the really well written dialogue and the characters made them all mesh together and made it feel very real. Like, every time there was an argument, or every time Lady Bird had a disagreement with someone, or when she made a choice, I always kind of, although I didn't think it was like a good choice or whatever, I always kind of agreed with her making that choice, and I always felt like it's like, yeah, I can see myself doing that. I was like, or I have done that. Especially there's a moment where she kind of starts neglecting her best friend in favor of hanging out with this
cool kid.
Yeah, this other girl and her new boyfriend, because, like, I guess like that kind of represents a life that she thinks she wants, and then she ends up realizing she doesn't like those people, and then kind of tries to go back, and I completely connected that as I was like, yeah, I feel like I've done that.
We all either kind of know someone who's sort of done that to us, or feel regret because we've done that.
I mean, relatable just keeps on coming up with this film, I think.
Something Rich, again, touching on relatable, something I think they also did really well, and it's only shown in a handful of scenes, is the and in brackets honeymoon period of a relationship. And the first boyfriend she gets, how, like, you know, they're lying on the grass and they're picking their favorite star and they're saying how much they respect each other and how much they love each other, and like, you know, it's
such a great scene. Like, you know, you can touch my boobs if you want.
Yeah,
it's like
I respect
you too much too. It's like,
it's such a, like,
if you had boobs, I wouldn't touch them either. Like, it's such a good, like, such a cute, as you said, honeymoon phase.
I feel like this film is a very cute film.
It is.
I feel like that's a good way to
definitely.
So yeah, I just think
describe
it realistically describes that without romanticizing it, because
definitely
in most films that I've seen, like, using the term chick flick, I guess, but in most films where you get the honeymoon period, it's always crazy big. They're always taking limos to fancy dinners, or they're, like, you know, going on holiday and stuff like that. But realistically, when you're in high school, like, the beginning of relationships is usually just lying on the grass, or, like, you know, just not wanting to be at either house because you don't want to be with your parents. And just being quite content spending time with each other doing nothing. And that's a much more realistic take on a relationship at that age than half the shit you see in most films these days.
Did you guys pick that Danny was gay?
Yep.
No.
Yeah. I picked
I don't know what it was, but there was just a moment
Yeah,
in
for
the
some
relationship.
reason,
I was like, I don't know why, but I think he's gay.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and they just kept going in the relationship, and I was like, oh, maybe not.
Mind you, when you found out about that hit me like a bag of bricks. Like,
Yeah, I didn't see it coming.
I thought he was gay, but I thought it would come out in like a bit of like more of a slow, like, I think I'm having feelings for someone else, but not a girl kind of thing.
As soon as they went into the other bathroom, I knew that.
Really?
Was
yeah. I was
like, they're going to the men's bathroom. Okay.
Because it all happened so quickly, and I'm like, that's what I was saying, where I wasn't sure if I liked the pacing or if I didn't like the pacing, because there were some very major plot points that just came out of nowhere.
The scene later where her now ex-boyfriend goes to meet her where she works, and from her perspective, you can tell that she's thinking like, what does he want from me now? Like, he's harassing me, and like, very dramatic, and you sort of agree with her, like, oh, why is he here? Like, and then when he starts talking...
They meet out the back of the cafe, yeah.
And then when he starts talking, you realise, as she does, that, no, he's just really terrified that you're going to, like, ruin his life.
Yeah.
And he breaks down, and you have that feeling where you go from immediately being like, we're sort of done with this character, why is he still here? He's like, is this character going to become annoying now?
Yeah.
And you can feel that with her, and then immediately you feel sorry for him.
He just bawls his eyes out, and then...
Yeah. And you have that emotional ride super quickly with her, where she immediately decides to embrace him and give him a hug and tell him everything will be okay, because that's what you want to do, even though minutes ago you were like, no, I'm sick of this character, why is he here?
Yeah,
He's gonna
you've
be
ruined my life
now.
kind of thing.
Yeah. It's amazing how this film really gets you thinking in the perspective of Lady Bird, in that objectively, you probably could have called that, but you're sucked into the film enough that you're only thinking about things from her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not thinking about his character now that it's out of her life. It's like, what is that? Out of sight, out of mind, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he gets brought back in and he says 2 lines or something like that, and you immediately remember that, no, he's a human being, and and that's a really realistic sort of thing that you follow her with.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the whole... One of the major points of the film is, like, when she fights with her best friend Julie says, you have to be the center of attention of everything. And I feel like this movie is actually kind of coming to terms with, it's not all about you.
What I was going to say is, I think this film shows us that inevitably, if we're looking at life from our perspective, we're always going to be the center of our own attention. Regardless of how much we care for someone else, we're always, like, inevitably we're looking at things through our own perspective. And I think this film shows Lady Bird simply making the very normal mistake at that age of confusing your own perspective with what's important to everybody else's perspective.
It's really good that you use the word attention, center of attention, because one of the pivotal lines towards the end of the film is with the
love.
nun,
who
says, "Oh, so you really like?" I forget what the town is.
Sacramento.
You really love Sacramento. She's like, no, I just pay attention.
Yeah, and then the nun says, "Well, isn't attention and love the same thing?" And like that was kind of like a...
You think about it when you hear it, and you try to differentiate a difference, and you kind of don't.
Yeah.
When you watch the movie, I don't know about you guys, but I was like, no, I imagine, because the only way you show love is by care and attention, like... So in a way, like, I can kind of... And that is also fantastic, because there's a duality there in that she thinks that maybe her mum loves her but doesn't like her. But in the same way, she's just been shown by the nun that she's showing her love to Sacramento by paying attention to it. Not by... Like, not by telling everybody how much she loves staying there. And then you're like, oh, that's sort of what the mum is doing. Like, she's not showing it by being super cute around Lady Bird all the time, but she's giving her as much attention as possible. This is the type of film where if we were to study it, you could probably write an essay.
Oh, definitely. Easily. And like, so many things you can do. Like the cinematography even was fantastic, and it had its own little signature thing. Things like juxtaposition right at the end of the film. There's a quick cut when Lady Bird is driving, and she's driving into Sacramento, and it cuts straight to the mum doing the exact same thing, and little bits like that. Like we could talk days and days on it. Before we wrap it up the positives.
Yep.
Which part did I cry at? Which
do you want me to guess?
Which was my breakdown part?
I want to say
which scene?
When the mum is leaving the airport, and then she turns around.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree.
Yeah, it was pretty much that. I thought I was fine because that again it came down to the pacing where I'm still not sure whether it was good or not. I think in this instance it was good. The camera just lingered on the mum straight face, and
I thought she was gonna have a car accident. So I thought that movie was going.
I thought she would like break down and turn around, but it took her so long to do it. Like as soon as she pulled out, I thought, yeah, she's gonna start crying now. No, it stayed on her for a good few seconds, and then would cut back, and it wasn't until like she started getting desperate, like there was no turn off, and then I was like, oh no, she's gonna run back, and then run through the airport and. Like end of film. That's kind of what I was thinking. The bit that got me was when she ran in and the husband was walking back, and the husband's like, "It's okay." Again, like the husband, such a passive role, but such a powerful thing to just
such a necessary
be
element
there,
to
ready
the whole family.
Going because like I full on thought she'd catch Ladybird just at the right moment.
You'd get that closure
and get like the mum being like. I'm so sorry, like
everything
I've done for you, and yeah, something like that.
Even
just
if
something.
Ladybird saw that she came back.
But I think, bro, you touched on it before, where this movie does a great job in portraying the realistic, and everything doesn't sum up in neat little bows. Yeah. And I think that really caught me off guard in that little scene.
What I wanted to ask is, did you guys like the ending? I'm talking about once she gets off the plane and she moves into New York, everything past there. Did you guys feel like that was necessary?
Necessary. I feel like it was in there because the director wanted to leave it on that kind of good note.
Some kind of closure.
On kind of like... Because I feel like this entire film has all been about like... If you kind of associate yourself with Ladybird, you'll have a moment where you're like, oh, I need to go. I need to thank my mother for everything she did. If you like associate with the mother, you need to like find your child and think is like I didn't know this is how you could have been feeling. I feel like this film is too like it kind of makes you want to sympathize with the other person. But I feel like the director wanted that to be in there to make that all a well-rounded thing. Although I think that it would have been a much stronger ending if it ended after the mother ran to the airport terminal and found the father walking back, and she like hugged him there.
So here's how I wanted this movie to end, because there's a fantastic thing where she's reading all the notes that her mum has written, and they're all unfinished, and some of them start with "Dear Christine," some of them start with "Dear Ladybird." I don't know if you guys picked up on that detail, but the mum was still deciding how she wanted to write this letter. Yeah. And what I would have loved is if she narrated some of each letter that Ladybird picked up. So, like, she picks up one of it's like, "Dear Christina, I'm upset with your decision, da-da-da," and she, like, puts that one down, picks up another one, it's like, "Dear Ladybird, I know that we've had our differences," and it would have been fantastic for, like, a segmented, like, a disjointed... sort of a disjointed group of thoughts that the mum had, and although that some of them are for and some of them are against, whether she entirely forgives Ladybird, they all end in "I love you." And yeah, that would have been a really strong ending for me.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
I didn't like that instead she went off and then she decided to lie about where she came from, and then she decided to pretend she was someone that she wasn't, and then got drunk and threw up. I'm like, we just sat through 2 hours of her learning that lesson. You've destroyed everything. That's the thing in the film that I hated. I wouldn't say I hated anything else. I got bored in a lot of it. But the thing I hated was that we just learned the whole lesson of like, no, use your real name. Don't be ashamed of where you're from. Like, you just found out, like, maybe you don't like it, but you pay attention, you love it. And don't try to be someone you're not, because you tried that and you ended up hanging out with people that didn't treat you very well. And that was a really good journey to take someone on. And I really liked it when he's like, "What's your name?" And she's like, "Christine. My name is Christine." And then she shakes his hand and he's like, "You shake, that's weird." And she's like, "Yeah, I shake. That's me." I'm like, okay, that's the lesson she's
getting
learned.
there. Yeah.
That's the progression of the movie. She's learned not to be someone else. And he's like, "Where are you from?" "San Francisco." And I'm like, well, now you've ruined that. Why did I sit through the first 2 hours of this movie then? What was the point? What did she learn? It would have been, yeah. If that film had ended 10 minutes earlier for me, I honestly think I would have gotten more out of it. Which is, and I wasn't quite sure what the film was trying to achieve. I think throughout this conversation, I've seen more positives than I had found by myself. However, in the end, I still don't know who would enjoy this movie.
See, I think this film it's for people going through that stage in their life to be like, it's okay, other people feel this way. Yeah. Other people, because like that's like one of the biggest things in coming of age and, you know, trying to figure out the person that you're going to be and everything is you feel so alone in doing it. Even though you've got friends and everything, like you are your own and you're your own by yourself kind of thing. So I think this film does a service in that, in saying that, you know, even though everyone is different and everyone is going through similar things and trying to figure out who they are and all that. So it's not so much an escapist film where, you know, there's big things that don't generally happen in everyday life. It's more of just a pat on the back being like, it's okay, you know, you're not the only one kind of going through it.
I feel like I could watch this film a second time round if I was just feeling a bit down and kind of just like, it's one of those movies where, late at night. I've got a packet of chips or something, and I just feel a bit down. I could throw this on because it would make me reminisce about. Yeah, it's one of those movies that like it kind of like acts as a friend if you're feeling down. Like that's.
I'd be interested for people to write in if you saw this movie with a parent. If you watched this with your dad or with your mum, what was the vibe like when you walked out of the theater?
Yeah,
that'd be because I'm just thinking. Imagine if I watched this movie with like my mum. Like, it'd be really interesting. It'd be. I almost feel like your relationship would be stronger coming out of that movie.
Yeah, definitely.
If you saw this with a parent, as Brody, let us know. Yeah. I'm super intrigued about that.
As Brody said, the movie does a great job of showing the other side. So yeah, definitely.
So usually we theme these.
Mm-hmm.
I've been having to think about it. Your most awkward experience in high school.
Oh,
I have one. It was an awkward situation that I had created, which I immediately felt bad about. A friend of mine kind of had a bit of a crush on another friend of mine, and I told them that they were kind of they wanted to speak to them. They were really excited to speak to them, and they were like, "Oh, really?" And they kind of ran off really happy. And because I was just in a weird mood, I had a terrible day. I was like, I'm just going to do something that I thought would amuse me. And as soon as it happened, I was like, nope, I feel terrible. I feel absolutely terrible after that. It's like, I was just kind of just walking home, and I was like, yep, I feel like it wasn't even like I feel like a little bit terrible. It was like, I just feel, I have no idea what happened, but I feel really terrible about that situation.
I really, really liked this girl, and I had been...
That's super awkward,
I'd been emailing her for a bit. Yeah.
Emailing.
Just being like, yeah. Oh, because I had it, like, we talked on MSN sometimes back in the day when MSN was a thing. Anyway, I made it like this big thing in my head that like, oh, you know, maybe she likes me back. And then I went to ask her out, and I was kind of in front of a few friends, and she just turned me down. And then like 2 weeks later, came out that she was gay. So
really,
yeah,
awkward.
Yeah, awkward.
Very nice.
Very ladybird. Ladybird. But
so I've got one that potentially people will relate to. Is I was dating a girl at the time,
mm-hmm.
and we'd broken up. As you do, I stalked her on Facebook, right?
Classic.
And I found her, and it was like a picture of her with her ex-boyfriend, like the boyfriend before me.
Yeah, right.
And like, you know, it had said that they were in a relationship, but it had said that they'd been in a relationship for more than a couple of weeks. And so I immediately assumed, like, my brain jumped to conclusions. I was like 16 or 17 or something like that. My brain jumped to conclusions that she'd been dating me and him at the same time. And I got super worked up, and I got super angry, and for like, I slept on it. Like, when I say I slept on it, I was awake.
Yeah.
Right. I was
when I say slept on it, I mean not at all.
I was awake. Right.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I confronted her as a smart person would.
Classic.
Rather than just
classic move.
Call a friend and say, hey, can you just double check that I'm
correct,
that I'm not wrong, which would have been brilliant
smart
to do. But instead, I confronted her about her Facebook profile picture. And it was indeed a profile that she had like 2 years prior that she ditched and started a new profile. So I found not her current profile, but the profile she had while she was with him. Fantastic.
Wow. See, we've all been there. We've all been there.
We've all had an awkward life.
We're all relatable. That's why you should listen to next week's episode where we're reviewing...
Oh.
Don't know.
Nah.
Don't know.
Not sure.
We'll figure that out. You've been listening to the Film Slash Podcast, where movie talks happen.
Oh,
if you
this is the
wanna
worst.
Talk to us. Reach us
Don't
on
leave. Don't pick
Twitter
this one.
at film_slash_pod.
Oh.